in my cup. In the session, real loud, good gas, yeah, you know we about to roll it up. Bring the bottles to the session, big tab, go ahead and just live it up. Get lit one night, after that, we can go ahead.
What's going on? What's going on? It's your boy Icon. And we here on 95 South Podcast. Once again, first and foremost, I want to thank God for this opportunity to be able to come on here and have great people with great discussions and great topics. And to the right of me is my man, my right-hand man, the one to get it done all the time, your baby mama's favorite host himself, King Jacob. What's going on, fam?
What's up, bro? Glad to be in the land of the living, man. Got some heartbreaking news today, man, and it's rough out here, bro. It's rough out here, man. But we gonna press on and move forward, man. And thank God for this mission and this journey, man. And so we gonna have another star-studded episode today with a sensational guest, man, and we gonna get into his backstory.
Yes. So we don't give him a chance to get it together down. Okay, there we go. I thought he fell off the screen. So you go ahead and introduce this man while, so we can go ahead and get into this interview.
So I'm gonna let him introduce himself and tell him a little bit about who he is, what he represents, and and how he sees life. Sir, you do have the floor.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dewayne Hinnant. I am a professional speaker, author, motivational speaker, and domestic violence advocate. I've been advocating for domestic violence for 11 years now. So I just want to do my part in the community to make it better.
All right. Now, this is quite interesting to me. When you have a male that advocates for domestic violence, to give males a better insight and to give women a better insight, so they'll know that there are some males out there that sympathize with them, and many go through domestic violence as well. And so, coming from another brothering, that you understand how people can look at males that say they go through domestic violence, because we gotta be honest about it, man. When a man said he's went through domestic violence, he's not took seriously at all. So for you, man, tell us about your journey and what started at, man. And then after that, we'll get into the breakdown of your book and why you became author.
So my journey started probably 15 years ago. I used to work for the city of Durham, which is where I live at in North Carolina. And there was a domestic violence task force for the job I worked for. Now, we used to have get cases that come in for people looking for resources, people looking for housing, people looking for money, food, resources as far as helping them get out of their situation. So I would see certain cases come in every day. And some of those cases were bad, extremely bad, some things that you couldn't unsee or unread. So there came a time where it was time for our conference, and it was our first ever conference, and I had to actually speak on that conference. So I was writing my speech to end it, because I was going to be the last person that said anything. I get a phone call in the middle of the night, and it's one of my friends, and she's telling me that her boyfriend is trying to, he's already hit her. He's trying to get in her house. I can hear him banging on the doors. She's scared out of her mind. So I live a good hour, 20 minutes from where she did. So in the middle of the night, I got up and I went to go to her. By the time that I had gotten to her, she had already met me halfway. So she was out of that situation. But from there on, I thought just how common domestic violence was, is that the night before that I'm supposed to speak for a domestic violence conference, somebody that I knew was experiencing domestic violence.
Wow. So from that level, man, tell us about, your studies and your college background. And from there, were you like a psychology major or anything like that, man? So what really made you go full throttle and want to advocate for domestic violence? Because that's something that most men don't even think about advocating for. And so you have to be, first of all, you got to educate yourself on it. A lot of people don't know about it, the background of it. A lot of people don't know the mental signs, the emotional signs, and they don't understand how domestic violence can affect someone spiritually, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and physically. And so, with you understanding all that, how did you even come with terms that this is something that you have to do? This is this is something that needs a male voice in place with it.
So my background as far as education is actually in management. So I had no background from it. I didn't have any personal experience with it. I came from a two-family parent household. I didn't see any domestic violence. I had three sisters. Two of them were married long term. I didn't see any domestic violence there, and I had one brother. Didn't see any domestic violence there. So I came in as a novice as far as domestic violence. So what made me want to get active in it, other than my friend being affected by it, is that my story is that I've been married 4 times. Um, each one of those times I've been married, my wife or ex-wife had been experienced domestic violence in a previous relationship. And I look, yeah, when you break up with somebody, you always do self evaluation, see what the common denominator was, why it didn't work out. So when I look back at it, I saw common denominator, and common denominator was the fact that they had experienced domestic violence, and the fact that I didn't know how to talk to them. Because when somebody has experienced domestic violence, there's a certain kind of way that you have to talk to them, treat them a little bit, because they've been abused. Some of the things that you've done may seem like abuse, but it's really not.
Okay. Okay. So when you first got involved with it, man, and working for the city of Durham and getting involved with it, man, mentally and emotionally for you, man, as an advocate, man, how heavy did that weigh on you?
Oh man, there's some files that I can still think of today that really stay with you. But that's also a good motivator, a good push, because you don't want to have anybody else experience that. So you advocate based on some of the things that you've read, some of the stories that you've heard. I mean, even some of the stories that I haven't advocated for, they've stayed with me. Um, like you think back, because I have 3 daughters and I have 2 sons. Um, I don't want any of my daughters to experience abuse, and I don't want any of my sons to be abusers. So that's what also motivates me too as well.
Okay, okay, okay. So with that being said, man, how do you feel that when children see domestic violence in the household, man, how does it affect their mental, their emotional, and the overall effect on their memory when they become young adults and they look back on what happened to mom or grandma, auntie, or even dad or uncle, or just seeing it, period, man. Like, do you think that after a child sees domestic violence that there should be some counseling sessions?
Oh, definitely. There should definitely be some counseling session. It should be separate. There should be counseling sessions for the child, and there should be some family counseling sessions. Those things should be separated. The child needs their own um, therapy, and the family, they need their own therapy together, because seeing the domestic violence, or seeing domestic violence changes, especially in a child. I call it arrested development. And that's when trauma is so bad that it stunts your growth from that point on. And there's some people who their growth have been stunted by seeing domestic violence. You got to think about it. As a child, your first relationship is the kind of relationship that you have with the opposite parent. And the first relationship that you see is your parents' relationship. So sometimes you emulate the kind of relationship that you have with your parent, and that you see from your parents interacting with each other. So if you only see abuse, then what do you think that you how do you think you're supposed to treat women? That, or how you're supposed to be treated?
Okay, okay. So from those separate counseling sessions, man, um, what is vital with the family council session, and what is even more vital with just the one-on counseling session, excuse me, with the child and the counselor.
Well, I probably say what's vital, what's important is just to be able to speak, just to be able to speak and to talk about it, to air everything out. The child has to be comfort, and they have to know that so that this isn't something that's on you, it's something that's on the parents. That you don't have to take it, and this is not the best example or even a good example of what a relationship is. Sometimes you have to make your own example. If you never experience a good relationship, you have to make your own relationship. You have to make it the best that you can.
So from that experience, when the mind is cluttered and the mentals are damaged, um, does the child ever get over it, or can the child still sustain to stay in that same household where they seem to act committed?
Can It can and it does. What happens is that, especially if it's a male child, the male child becomes the man of the house. Um, he becomes the male. He becomes codependent. He becomes more or less a mama's boy because he's always wanting to protect his mother. And for a girl, sometimes the female that's in the family, the female girl in the family, sees the mother as being weak.
Okay. Great. Icon, to you.
Okay, so yeah, before we move on, we got to shout out our affiliates, Village Global Network, She Real Radio, T Dub Entertainment Radio, and Chosen One TV and Fox Network. And also, if you want to book us, hit us up on 95 South at gmail.com, or if you want to interview, 95 South Podcast at gmail.com, and subscribe to our YouTube page at 910 Sports and Entertainment Network. So anyway, so back to this author. So I'm gonna ask you this. So basically, and we kind of talked a bit about this on another show. What makes a man feel like he's entitled when it comes to telling a woman, if I can't have you, nobody can? And he even goes so far as we've seen like a uptick in men either killing the woman, abducting them and killing them, or breaking it, or if they break up with them, going back to the house and doing something to them, or even doing a murder suicide. So what's that in a man that what you've seen in your studies that make a man feel that he's got this sense of entitlement when it comes to that?
I go back to what I said before previously, is because sometimes that's all the kind, that's the relationship that they seen. The only kind of relationship they seen. So they act the way that they've seen our relationships act. So if they see their father being possessive and jealous, sometimes they think that's how a woman is supposed to be treated. And also too, you got to think about what's being portrayed in the media, and some toxic relationships that we see now. Think about it. We've seen a lot of toxic relationships, in entertainers and sports figures and stuff like that. So that's also played along to it. And also think about the music that we listen to, and also the movies that we watch. That also plays into it. I don't like rom-coms because rom-coms tell a horrible story, which people don't realize is that there's a whole bunch of back and forth that you go through in a relationship, which is not true. So I don't like those kind of movies. I don't like toxic movies at all. So all those things play into a part of it. It's society, it's entertainment, and it's also personal experience.
Okay, so when you say that you don't like the toxic movies, so I know like Tyler Perry, he takes a lot of backlash and flack for making especially the black man look like he's violent or he's no good or he's this, he's that. And I know from him it maybe come from experience of what he's seen, but it's detrimental to our culture and our community. Is it for him to, constantly make movies where it's always making the black man look like he's, such a terrible person, you know what I mean? And the women always all alone.
So I'll give you a better example, and it's one that's in my book. One movie that I thought was a good movie, I thought was very entertaining as a child, was Baby Boy.
Okay.
I thought Baby Boy was a pretty. I actually went to the movies to go see that. Then I saw it as a teenager's eyes, but when I got to an adult and I looked at it, it was like, wow, this movie was awful. It did showcase some abuse in it, but not a lot. But it showed just how toxic their relationship was, how he cheated, how she went and got another guy, with another guy. He came back. He slept with one of her, friends at work. And in the end, she still stayed with him.
Mm-hmm.
I look at that Baby Boy, and I also look at the book. I also read the book of Peter Pan. Peter Pan is about a kid who never wanted to grow up, and then you have the kind of relationship with Wendy that a lot of guys have. They don't ever want to grow up, but they want somebody to be around when they call them and when they need them. But a lot of people just know the Disney version of Peter Pan, the boy that never wanted to grow up. But the adult version of Peter Pan is that he not only didn't grow up, is that Wendy left him. When he left, went back to the real world. When he had children of her own, Peter Pan came back into her life and saw that she was an adult and had all these grown stuff going on. He didn't like her anymore. Not only didn't he didn't like her anymore, but Peter Pan tried to take her daughter because she was young.
Well, you know what? And I'm gonna give you another example that I didn't like. Was when the first time I watched Christian and Blueface on Zeus. And I remember just how upset I was getting watching this show, because I said, how do you put two black people on TV and this is the most toxic thing I've ever seen, like, playing it out. You know what I mean? And I know a lot of this stuff is scripted and put together, but you can tell this is two young people acting out their real life episodes on TV where they're fighting each other's parents and sisters and brothers, and they fighting each other. And I'm like, how is that? How do people co-sign on a show like this? And you know what I mean? And like 1 minute it's like, oh, everybody's loving it, and the next minute they want to bash the two people involved. But y'all allowed this to be seen. Is anybody actually pushing the network to say no?
No.
You know what I'm saying? And as long as we keep allowing this kind of stuff on our networks, then of course we're gonna keep getting what we getting out in the real world, where these men feel it's okay to be abusive to these women, and vice versa, even these women being abusive to the men. You know what I mean? So yeah, so that's kind of like, you know what I mean, because like I told Jacob, I've dealt with different type of domestic violence situations over the year, and the one that irks me the most, well, is one when we turn a blind eye. And I'm gonna tell you a story from years ago. I was in the club and I was in there, and I think I was a host that night, or a judge or something. And I remember at the end of the night, I'm waiting for me to get paid out, whatever. I'm in the lobby, in the hall, whatever. And the DJ he was a prominent DJ in Atlanta, on the radio and everything. And I remember when he's standing there with his boys talking, and there's two girls walked in, and I guess one of the girls must have been his girlfriend or whatever. And I remember he said something to her, she said something to him, and he literally punched her in the face like 2 or 3 times. And then the girlfriend just grabbed and said, "Come on, girl." And his homeboys, he literally turned around and started the conversation back up like nothing just happened. And my thinking, and part of me wanted to do something, and part of me stood back for a second and was like, hold on, this must be normal. Because now one of his boys said, bro, what you doing? And the girl just grabbed her and said, come on. We just go wait. Like, basically, we're going to go wait in the, he like, because after he hit it was like, go wait in the car. And I'm like, what? You know what I'm saying? So I'm just like, and that was kind of like one of those moments in time, me thinking about it was like, man, I felt bad because I'm like, dang, I ain't step up that night or whatever. And I said, okay, this is one of those things I can never let happen in front of me again and not do something about it. And a couple of years ago, something similar, not that, but a domestic situation happened. I went running, trying to be, you know, save a brother, and I got bashed and cussed out by the woman and said that I went over there to jump on her husband and ambush her husband and all this stuff because I went over there to save her and her family, you know, her and her kids, because her kids come running to my house, you know, basically telling me what happened. Like he done jumped on her daughters and everything. And then when I went over there try to see what was going on, I became the villain. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, you know, I did. So tell me, like, I guess explain to me in your studies when it comes to the female side, what's really going in that situation.
So as someone who was on the outside looking in, sometimes you have to take a step back. Sometimes you can't. A part of me wants to be that protector, but a part of me saying you got other people that you got to protect yourself from. You got a family, you got daughters and stuff like that. And then too, you don't by you not knowing the dynamic of the relationship, this may be something normal. This may be something normal that happens all the time, where they are just in it just to fight and make up the breakup. So as a person on the outside, you have to be careful. As someone who's seen it, as someone who will look at it in a family scope, you have to be careful too, because sometimes you have to push back. You have to push back and say, sometimes you're going to have to let this happen and let it play out, or offer just support. Be a listening ear, not a running mouth. Be somewhere safe, and that's all you can be.
Okay. Jacob, got what else you got?
Well, I do understand that sometimes you got to, what they say, mind your business is just drink a glass of water. I understand. But man, it'll be very heartbreaking if me, you, and Icon was in a situation and we didn't stop something, and this dude ended up killing his girlfriend or killing his wife, and we kind of relapse and look back at it, be like, man, why we ain't stopped that?
Yeah.
But you will hear people in the background, man, y'all ain't got nothing to do with that, cause she gonna go right back to him. I done seen her brothers whoop their behind. I done seen their dad get the heat after him, and she go right back to him, and she divide her own flesh and blood, just turn against him for him. So, you know, I remember the rapper Eve being on Oprah, and she went through a bad meltdown because her best friend got killed in a domestic violence situation, and Oprah had her on there, and she said he loved her so much till he loved her to death. And you know, that's real sad. That's real heartbreaking. And so I can really comply with what you're saying. Sometimes you gotta stay out of it, man, but that same situation that we have to stay out of, man, when it gets that drastic, man, we get so emotional, and we just don't know what to do, man. And so now you wrote this book, The Ripple Effect. And so with that being said, what inspired you to write the book and why?
So I wrote this book. I wrote this book at work. I wrote it because I had seen, I had wrote it at work, and I was working at a call center, and I had seen so many things going on in the news, And I was just tired. I was just tired of seeing it in the news, reading about it in papers. And some of the people that I work with, they had their own toxic relationship. And I was just like, so what is it? Like, people just not get the information, people just not know what's actually going on, or they're just uneducated about what type of relationship. So it all just came from thoughts, just thoughts I have in my head. What about this? What about that? What are the numbers? What do the numbers say? And that's where I came up with the book from. I wrote it, like I said, from a novice point of view. So if you read the book, it's coming from a point of view where you don't know anything about domestic violence, which that's where I was coming from at the time. And your first experience of domestic violence, or you don't have any experience with domestic violence. So you're getting all the information as someone else that is experiencing for the first time. So you'll know the tricks, you'll know what the signs are, and you know how to act towards them.
We can't hear you.
I'm gonna give you 3 words, Dewayne, and I want you to chime in on it and break them down. And Icon, as well as when you get through, I want you to do it as well. Love, domestic violence, healing.
Who want to go first?
You can go first.
Okay, so love, domestic violence, and healing. Love is what you need, so you don't go through domestic violence, and healing is what you have after you've gone through domestic violence.
Okay, stop right there. Stop right there. Now, love, LOVE, a word that can be loosely used in the wrong way. So, mentally and emotionally, I hear women say, and have heard conversations where people have said, women have said this. They was like, well, how can he constantly hit you, beat you, and he said he loves you? And they would say, oh, well, you just don't understand the things he went through in his life, so I'm just trying to cope with it and work with him and trying to help him, come out of that dark space. Now, dark space is one thing and trying to help him, but if a person is not helping themselves come out of dark space, and how can you possibly help them? Like, cause I think people think that they can do more than God can do, but that's not
True.
true at all. So, what do you think about that statement?
That's a very good point. You're going into a relationship. There shouldn't be um, that you have to heal somebody that's already in a healing place. You should already come to a relationship already healed. And if you already know that you're not, you shouldn't be in a relationship, because that relationship can't fix what's wrong with you. That relationship can't relieve you of all the trauma that you've experienced. But what it can do is it can damage you, and it can damage that person that you're in a relationship with.
Well, Dwayne, I say this to your statement. If that's the case, is that and that is what we're supposed to do, then wouldn't nobody be dating or wouldn't nobody be married? Because some of the brothers I talk to, when they say, "Man, when will I stop paying for somebody else's shortcomings?"
Mm.
I don't have no answer for 'em. I have no answer for 'em.
Well,
You know
that
what I mean?
that comes from one, love being, you have to love yourself for one. That's where the love starts, loving of yourself. And knowing that you deserve a certain type of love. And Jacob, one of my favorite shows to watch, and I don't know if my brother here ever watches. It's called Ready to Love, and it's a show that If you have a chance, his nephew Tommy is the host of, and they put all people that's been past relationships, marriages, dating, with kids, and a lot of them have great careers. I mean, doctors, lawyers, in all kind of different stuff going on. Engineers, and but the only one thing they mention is that true love with that other individual. And what happens is a lot of these people, they go on this show and they realize they still not healed. But the whole time they're on the show, then they're looking for something that they haven't even found in themselves yet, because it ended up coming out like, oh well, they're dating this person because it's ten women in, and they have to try to navigate through all this to find out who they got chemistry with, and who they like, and who they feeling, and all this other stuff. And then they realize like, oh, I haven't still healed from my last relationship, because when we start getting deep and start uncovering all those onion layers, I found out I'm still trying to blame you for, or look at you and say, well, my last boyfriend or my last girlfriend did this, or whatever the case may be. So, you know what I'm saying? So the thing about it is they have to get some kind of counseling. I know, a long time in our community, going to counseling was taboo. Going to counseling was showing weakness, showing that you didn't believe in God, or you didn't believe in, whatever. But I think in the society we are now, you need to have some kind of counseling to help you heal, so you can go into the next relationship, because none of us are capable. Most of us not capable of being in a relationship with somebody, and the whole time we're trying to help you heal and trying to help you see us in a light that we want you to see us. You know what I'm saying? Like, most of us don't have that kind of time to be able to do all that. And before, when y'all responded, I want to say to Kate out there, as I see you, and your answer was love is rooted in trust and respect. I agree on that, or whatever. And then I want to say this before y'all answer. I've seen this whole thing with Tyler Perry, and at first I almost agreed with him. I started to think about it some more, and I said, no, that's the last thing we need, is women having to basically settle for a man that just has a great personality and is a great guy, and basically a woman being okay with him just being at home taking care of the kids, or whatever. Like, we need that queen to push that man to be better. You know what I'm saying? Not just to settle just because he's a great guy. You know what I'm saying? He don't necessarily. I ain't saying he got to be they say if you got a woman that makes more money than you, then I mean that could be fine as long as you doing your part. But to me it just came off kind of like I think you could have kind of worded that a little bit different. Like, you be okay with the man just being at home and cooking and cleaning and taking care of the kids and being the house husband, and the woman out working, because we decided with a lot of women make more money than men. That's not a good look. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God, man! Listen, man. I think Tyler Perry is a brilliant writer, a brilliant casting director, a brilliant TV producer. But some of the things he say is very much so delusional. Just delusional, man. Like if they gonna stay home full time with the kids, man, you might well just let them put on a skirt and some pantyhose. Like, for real, man. I'm gonna keep it always funky, man. And people say they want that loyalty, that honesty, that love, that commitment. But do women search deep to see what? Now, through a friendship, you can search deep. So, are they really friends? Is a man and woman really friends before they take you there? You know what I mean? Sexual ties, soul ties can really corrupt a great friendship, where you can learn them mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and psychologically. Because you got to tap inside a person's mind to really see who they are. She can be the baddest thing in the world, well put together, um, a great job, but mentally and emotionally, she can be destroyed. And so, how do you work through that? You don't work through that while you're in the relationship. You work through that by building a friendship, building that trust, helping her with those trust issues. So yes, it may be a whole counseling session you might not have time for, but you're gonna make time for what you want to make time for. And so I think that people have sexual ties that don't even know each other. Man, you don't even know that woman's favorite color, man. But you know how her backside look. That's a problem. That that's a problem, bro. That's a problem. That's a problem, bro. Like you don't even know her top three artists. Music but but her boobs in your face. You know what I mean? Like she done brought you around her kids and she ain't been dating you for a good 90 days and you already met her kids. That's a problem. And people wonder why men get mad at stuff like that. It's like stop searching, rebuild and rebrand you. You know what I mean? And that takes time. You know what I mean? You're not gonna do it in 60 days. It takes time, man. And so uh people people wanna well, I'm so lonely. So if you're lonely, that's the time for you and God, man. That's the time for you to get healed, for you to get into them scriptures, man, and for you to seek counseling, because it's quite obvious something is wrong. If you in the house every day and every time you think about His name, is you in tears for hours and hours, you need to go get some help because mentally it's destroyed you, emotionally and spiritually. You don't you don't have any spiritual growth and any spiritual presence, and that's the bad thing about relationships. Nobody spiritually love one another. How much do you love her or him spiritually? You know what I mean? So if God ain't in the midst, then the devil gonna tear your ass up, tear you up. You gonna think Ken Griffey Jr. in your head.
I'll also say if you don't love yourself enough, because we're talking about people who coming into a relationship that's already damaged and they haven't healed from it. So I always say that self-care is the best care.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not taking care of yourself, then how are you going to learn how to take care of somebody else? How are you going to learn how to love somebody else? How are you going to learn how to respect somebody else if you're not respecting yourself? Um, one of the episodes, not one of the seasons that you talk about, Ready for Love, I saw this one relationship, and it was a guy he was from Louisiana, and this other girl, she was a hairdresser, and all through the show, they had that he would only pick her out of everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
They matched up with each other. They had the same kind of vibe from each other, and they generally liked each other.
Mm-hmm.
But there was an episode where they had to go on separate dates, and they had to go on a separate date, so they couldn't pick each other anymore. So he picked somebody, and she picked somebody. She didn't have a good date on. She didn't have a good time on her date, but he was a real nice guy. He was real, um, likable person, and the girl kind of liked him, and she didn't like that at all.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't like it at all. She was very jealous, and it came out that she had experienced cheating and abuse in her previous relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of the show, they couldn't get it together.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And see, that's another thing too. Just to go, even to carry on with that show, because I could give y'all, I give us all kinds of scenarios because I don't watch like all 5, 6 seasons. So it was one season where I think it was from Houston, Texas, and the guy, he was a radio personality, and he was real nice guy, real kind of he had a kind of flamboyant look about him or whatever. And I remember he got put out early on one of the season he was on because he was too nice of a guy. He got put
I
in the
think I
friend
remember
zone.
that. I
He
think
got
I
put in the
remember that.
friend zone very early.
Hold,
To
hold,
the
hold on, I can hold
uh,
on, man. Hold. Now, this is the crap I get tired of. Women saying, oh, he's too nice. I don't think he's real. I think he set me up for the okie doke. So you mean to tell me since you've been dating since you were 16 and 17, everyone you dated has put their hands on you? Like you never had experienced a nice guy at all?
Mhm.
Like you never had any men in your family that treat their wives, you know, great, with kindness and consider their feelings. So what have you internally and externally been around your whole life? That's the real question, Dwayne. And that's
And,
$1 million question with $1 million answer.
and the thing about it is, we talking about women on this show. There's a lot of them are late 30s, early 40s, even close to 50. So that's even more sad when you're talking about women who've experienced a lot of life. You know what I mean? And still can't pinpoint a genuine person. And it was so crazy. They actually brought him back on the following season as like, as like we're gonna give you another chance. Just because they
Yeah,
time he actually felt like he got a raw deal. Like, well, maybe I'll put him with another a different group of women the next time around. And I want to say he ended up finding love the second time around. But it was like one of those things, he brought him back just to try to find love the second time around because he knew the man got a raw deal. And this what I don't understand for the life of me. Because for years, that's how I was looked at, especially in my younger years as, oh, he's such a nice guy, or I had a look of a nice guy. And I was like, so what do you really want if 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 uh, if you want a man, if a man ain't talking to you a certain way, or doing certain things, then he ain't good enough, or he ain't tough enough, or he ain't whatever. And I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna let you have the floor, Dwayne. Um, in life, okay, and I may be wrong about this, but I'm gonna put it out there anyway. A man who's with a woman who's making more money than him, and and one, okay, is that man trying to get to the point where he's making more money, whether it's going to school, putting a business together, getting a promotion on his job? And two, how many relationships have you actually seen that actually worked over the long haul with a woman making more money than her man? Because at the end of the day, one, the man starts to feel inferior and starts losing his self-esteem and his confidence. And two, women, when they get to arguing, they like to throw that kind of stuff up in your face. And they start trying to treat you like you the woman, they the man, by the way they talk to you when it comes to the house or doing this or doing that. So I explain to me how over the long haul that would even work. Yeah.
so one I'll say this. Um, one of on my second marriage, I was asked how everything was going, and this was by a guy who had been married 40 some odd years. He said it's going good. He's like, that's what I like to hear. He's like, she giving 50% and I'm giving 50%. He was like, no, that's wrong. He said you should be giving 100%, because if you giving 100% and she giving 100%, then nobody's left out.
Mm.
Because if you're giving 50% and she's giving 50%, then somebody's always going to feel left out, because you're only giving half of what they're giving. But if everybody's giving 100%, that means everybody's doing their job. So I look at it that way: is that once again you take back into consideration and reevaluation your life and your relationships. I have to make myself a better person. I can't be concerned about what she's making unless she's been a detriment to the household. If she's making more than me, that's fine. I'm confident in everything that I do. I'm confident in who I am as a person, who I am as a man, who I am as a father, who I am as a provider. I'm confident in every point of the way. I know I give 100% of what I'm doing to provide, and it may not be 100% of $700,000, but it's 100% of what I have. So as long as you focus on that, then it really shouldn't matter who's really the breadwinner,
Mm-hmm.
because the breadwinner means this. That means that somebody is slightly making more money than you do. It doesn't mean that you're actually taking care of the whole family. Or it shouldn't mean that. Let me put it like that. It shouldn't mean that.
Yeah,
Well,
because the thing about it is, is that let's just say a woman is making more money than a man, but the man bringing enough. Let's say he bringing enough home to pay the bill, and the money that the woman making maybe to go get her hair and nails done and do other stuff. So you know what I mean. So to me, at the end of the day, if the man is still providing and doing what he says for the household, and but you still got your money to go out and hang with the girls and go shopping and get your nails done, then what the problem is? You know what I mean? So yeah, go ahead, Jacob.
Um, I just think, Dwayne, when it comes to relationships, if you don't know who you are, then why the hell should I? I, I mean, what do you want me to do? I mean, I can't, I can't draw a circle in your palm, and it appears to me on who you are. So if you don't know who you are, how should I? If you're just going through the motions and you've experienced, mental abuse, emotional abuse, domestic violence, and you never had the proper healing, and you just going through the motions because you're lonely. Keyword lonely. Because you're lonely, you just want somebody there. But what is that doing for that person? That's setting them up for the okie doke, because that person can be genuine and just really want to grow with you, but you can't grow because you haven't been healed, and so your mind is still very much so toxic. Your heart is toxic, and so you're bringing that toxicity over into somebody else's space. And so, how do you think that's gonna play out? You know what I mean? And so, I just want to know, man, with your experience of dealing with domestic violence and emotional abuse and mental abuse and even financial and spiritual abuse. You know, a lot of people leave the financial abuse out, but it's something that causes all the other mental abuse, emotional abuse. Then we talk about your church people, spiritual abuse. You go to a church to try to get the word, and so if you go in and you feel the same way going out as you went in, then what are you doing there? Or what are they doing? So a lot of people go through when they go confide in the pastor and whatnot and stuff, and pastor tells them this, other, and the third, but he ain't really tell them nothing to help them. You know what I mean? Because forget, most of the time they're going to a male pastor, and with that being said, you know, here comes the sexism. You know what I mean? The man is always right. The man is imperial. So you can't possibly he can't possibly put himself in your shoes because he's not a woman. So what do you do then? You know, and is the vow still sacred as they once was? Because in the older years, people fought for their marriages. You know what I mean? They didn't just run. It seems like now the first sign of trouble, you know, people running just like they're on the track field, like you run the 400-yard relay. You know what I mean? They gone. You know what I mean? So what has happened, or has society encountered the mind of people really wanting to grow together and build an empire together and really stand on top of the word love. So you know, it's not the same as it once was, and nothing stays the same forever. But I think that people are such runners these days, man, and so and even with the domestic violence, now you you go through this, you go see a counselor, but every time if I see you on social media and every other word his name is in your mouth, then you ain't trying to heal. you still pondering on why you was did like this, how you did like this, and you want to make his life a living hell or her life a living hell, but not find yourself again, rebuild yourself again, restructure yourself, and get out your feelings and get into your healing. That's all I got to say about that.
You got to think about it too. It's not that the Bible isn't as sacred as it used to be. The word stays the same, unchanging. It's always going to be there. It's just that the people, society has changed. You got to also look at it too. Is that we not built like our parents were. Our parents were built different. Our parents also didn't know what a healthy relationship was too, because they had a lot of them came from trauma themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and it was not relationship trauma, but it was social trauma. So you had a man who couldn't find a job or was off and on doing work, and you had the woman that was being a provider. 'Cause that's all she knew. She knew she had a good husband or a good man at home, but he just couldn't get it. He was, the man had his foot on his neck. He just couldn't get it together. So that brought them together. That made them stay together, but it also caused different kind of trauma and different kind of hurt. Now, for this society, it's a little bit different because they don't have those kind of traumas socially. They have trauma relationship wise more than it is social. So when you say that the Bible isn't as sacred as it is, it is. It still is. It's just different people. Now, what you also too got to look back as far as the Bible too. Some of the things that they are preaching about and talking about is outdated and it's archaic.
Mm-hmm.
For you to harp on um, the scripture, a woman is supposed to obey the man. That scripture is only told half,
I'm
because
not saying
they don't never get to the last part of it, which is a man supposed to love his wife like Jesus loved the church.
Mm-hmm. What's
well, what Dwayne, I'm not saying that the word will ever change, but what I'm saying, when you the leader of a flock and you're not actually leading the flock, like a lot of preachers never preach from the Old Testament, it's only the New Testament. And why is that?
Yeah, I was about to say.
True.
Most preachers don't preach. They don't touch the Old Testament because I think a lot of preachers don't preach from the Old Testament because they don't. They know that most people are going to push back on the Old Testament. You know what I mean?
No, they preach from the Old Testament. They don't preach from the New Testament. When when a lot of
Well,
people
depending on the preacher.
when I ask this question, nobody ever answers it right, and I always ask it to see what they said. What's the last commandment?
Mm. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie to you. And I can't say off the top of my head what it is. What's the last command?
The last commandment is love. Jesus came back to
Right.
fulfill that.
Mm-hmm.
So the
Mm-hmm.
last commandment is love. It's not the ones that's written. It's Jesus coming back. That was the last commandment because he was supposed to come back and fulfill all of them. So when you say that, abide by, the commandments and stuff like that, and da this and da that, Jesus only wanted love. Jesus only wanted love. That's all. That's all. That's all he came for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then
So
you got opposite at the end of the day.
so
And that's
so I
crazy.
can I hear people say, love your brother and sister as you love yourself. And I understand that's what it says.
Mm-hmm.
But man, listen, in this day and age, sometimes it's better to love your brother and your sister from a distance because bad energy is something serious, man. It really is. And then with you doing all that you do, Dwayne, and stand up for domestic violence, man, there's a lot of times, man, where I kind of know you got to step back and drink your glass of water and just fall down on your knees and pray. You know what I mean? Because no matter how much you do, they always got a word. So how can you really help somebody when they don't even open up their mind to listen to you? You know what I mean?
Well, you can love somebody without dealing with them.
No, I
It's
said,
very
how can you help? I said, not love, help.
no. I
Help.
know, but know what you. I was going back with the first part where you said love thy neighbor, but you were saying not not being like basically loving them like you got to deal with them. I can love you and not have ill will towards you or hate towards you. That's why when people say you forgive that person for yourself, you're not forgiving them for them. You give them for yourself. Because
I
I can
can love
still
you from afar. I can love you
yeah,
from afar, man. But I'm,
but still
I'm
not deal with you on a personal level or whatever. If I see you in the streets, I'm gonna speak, but I may not deal with you if you coming over the house, we breaking bread, we hanging out, we doing whatever. You know what I mean? Them days are gone. That
that's exactly what I meant. I can love you from afar, bro. I can
yeah.
keep you in prayer. I can keep you in prayer. You know, when I see you, I'm gonna keep it cordial. But a lot of times, man, that the people that we was friends with 25 years ago, they're not the same people. And with with your journey, it comes with growth. And so a lot of people don't want to grow with you. And so therefore, man, therefore, you gotta pray for them. You gotta pray for them, and just keep them in your thoughts and your prayers, man, and just continue to follow your purpose, man. You know what I mean, and to follow your passion. And
Yeah.
so, and
That's why
so,
some people for a season and some people in your life for a lifetime. You know what I'm
that's
True.
saying?
true. That's true. That's true. So,
Yeah.
Dwayne, before we get out of here, man, and thank you for dropping those jewels, man. It's been great. So, tell us about your show that's coming up October 21st.
So I'm doing a fashion show October 21st in Durham. It's called Beauty is Pain. It was based on a poem I wrote. I used to work for a nonprofit, a domestic violence nonprofit. And one of the fundraisers that I thought that we would do is do a fashion show. So I thought about doing a fashion show. So I, started, reaching out to people, reaching out to other models that I come in contact with, seeing other, people and stuff like that. So that show never got fulfilled. So this year I was just like, so what can I do just to give back to the community? And so one of the things I thought it was, hey, I should think about doing the fashion show again. So when I started reaching back out to some of the people and I started hearing some of the stories that they told about how they experienced domestic violence or that they were in a domestic violence relationship, and I was like, this would be a great idea to do. So I probably say 80% of the models that are in it, they've experienced some domestic violence or known some domestic violence. Even some of the vendors that I have that are in that are going to be at the show, they've been through domestic violence. Even some of people that's on the outside looking at it, they say it's a great idea. So this is a way for me to give back and bring awareness and also let other people know that, hey, that you may see these people and they look fabulous, they look beautiful beyond sight, but there's something behind it. So that's why, like I said, I wrote the poem Beauty is Pain. That's why I'm doing the fashion show. It's called Beauty is Pain.
Okay, okay, that's great, man. That's great, man. I think that's different. I think it's gonna grow so much awareness, man, and I think there's a definitely lane for you to keep doing things, and there's a lane for you to do at least four or five events a year, because
Yeah,
it's a purpose. It's a purpose behind your events, and so we definitely we definitely support you on that. And I did talk to him earlier today about us doing the media at the fashion show, the domestic violence fashion show. So,
Okay.
we'll be talking a little bit more about that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I would love to do that. They'd love to be involved anywhere we can. Mhm.
perfect.
As you can see, we definitely an advocate for domestic violence, and it's something that's been like one of the things I definitely want to get involved in more and more because because I've seen it in my whole life since I was a kid or whatever. So it was something that I always felt like it was very disturbing to me, and why more of us as especially black men in our community we turn a blind eye. When I heard about the lady in Chicago who got beat up in the restaurant, her son had to kill the man. or whatever.
Yeah.
People were standing watching was ridiculous. And then one lady who I forgot what city that was when she was in the store and came out the store and the man tried to holler at her, get a number, and she got beat up. And they were saying another situation where everybody sitting around and whatever, and the lady got beat up real bad or whatever. And both those situations was, was black women. You know what I mean? Not to say I don't advocate for no woman get hit on, but I'm just saying when it comes to our black women, we definitely have to do better. If we, especially standing there witnessing some stuff, it's different when you see when stuff happen in the home. You don't, like you said, you don't know what's going on in that home and how much is that tolerated. You know what I'm saying? But when you see it physically and you standing around watching, like, you know what I mean? Like I'm gonna say this when we gonna get out of here. I was at the bowling alley years ago with my coworkers, and one of our coworkers, her and her boyfriend got to fight in the parking lot, and whatever, and me and my other, some of my other coworkers went out there and checked them on it. Like, bro, that's not what we doing. You know what I'm saying? You're not about to, be putting hands on this woman out here. You know what I mean? And that was a black guy, and the girl, the girl, she was a white girl or whatever. And then, we like, no, we didn't care who it was. You're not about to be out here beating on this girl like this. You know what I mean? Or whatever. So, so we gotta definitely do better. But anyway, bro, I want to appreciate you for coming on. I don't know if you got any social media you want to throw out there real quick, or whatever. Let people what your social media is or whatever, and then where they can everything at.
Yeah. So my social media is C Dewayne Hinnant. That's on Facebook and Instagram. You can find my book, The Ripple Effect: The Lasting Effects of Domestic Violence, on Amazon. You can also go to my website too, C Dewayne Hinnant, and also find me there. I also have another event that's actually happening on October the 14th. It's called There's Levels to This, and it just goes through the different stages of domestic violence or abuse through domestic violence. We're going to go through spiritual abuse, financial abuse, verbal abuse, and of course, the physical abuse. Can I just give a couple of shout outs if you don't mind?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, a couple of the designers that's going to be at the show. One of my close designers, his name is CJ Telfair. He does design. He's going to be a designer that's there. I'm going to have a designer name from a boutique in Raleigh. It's at the Triangle Town Center. It's called MMH Body and Soul. Another designer is called Fluffy Queen. Is going to be there. I want to also give a shout out to my coaches, Ashley Jordan and Kelly Boone. They are helping me extensively. They've done modeling. They have done it all, and they are helping me do my first fashion show. I want to thank them too.
Okay. Yeah, I'm actually from Southern Pines myself. I don't know if you ever heard of it. That's where I'm actually from. Whatever. So I'm right down the street from where you at originally. Okay. In Durham. So yeah, brother, I want to appreciate you coming on, giving us your time. And like you said, whatever we can do to help you, we there.
Thank you, sir.
All right, y'all have a blessed night, my brothers.
You too. Thank you.
We got the good vibe, got the 1942 pouring in my cup.